Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We are learning Mishna is Nazir, and we're in Perek Zayin, Chapter 7, Mishnah Aleph, Mishnah 1. Now, just a quick intro. A Kohen Gadol, the high priest or a Nazir, may not become tamei to a dead body, even if it's a close relative. We know that a regular Kohen, is allowed. He can't go to anybody else's, can't become tamei to any other dead body other than his closest relatives. His wife, father, mother, brother, sister, children. A Kohen Gadol or a Nazir, none of them can become tamei for those relatives. That's derived from the words of the Torah. So now, Kohen Gadol v'Nazir eina mitam b'kreivein. A Kohen Gadol and a Nazir may not become tamei even to their close relatives. Aval mitamin l'meis mitzvah. But they can make themselves tamei for a meis mitzvah. That means a mace, that it's a mitzvah to bury, a special mitzvah to bury, more than any other dead person, and that is an abandoned corpse, a corpse that has no relatives to bury it. So even though the fact that the Torah explicitly states that the relatives are forbidden, that means to say it's only there that even they are forbidden, but there's an exception. An exception is a meis mitzvah, a person who died, and there is no one to bury them. Okay, so that's an exception to the rule. And that exception to the rule is not only to a Kohen Gadol, it's a regular Kohen also, right? A regular Kohen can only become tamei to his closest relatives, not to anybody else. But a meis mitzvah, he may make himself impure to bury. So now, the Mishnah says like this. They were walking on a path, the Kohen Gadol and the Nazir. Okay? Umatsu meis mitzvah. And they came upon a meis mitzvah, upon an abandoned corpse. So now, the case here is like this. If they would be both needed to bury this corpse, then there'd be no question. But the situation here is that they only need one of them. Only one of them is needed. That's the case. And therefore, the question now is, which one of them should be doing it? Is there any preference? Is there any one that we say do it, should be doing it more than the other one? So Rabbi Eliezer says, Yitame Kohen Gadol v'Yitame Nazir. Let the Kohen Gadol become a tamei and not the Nazir. And again, not even just the Kohen Gadol, the Kohen. We're talking at this point, we're talking about a Kohen Gadol, but the law applies equally to regular Kohen. It's just that, as the commentaries point out, the Mishnah talks about the Kohen Gadol to tell you that Rabbi Eliezer opinion now that we just read is even a Kohen Gadol should be tamei, and instead of the Nazir becoming tamei. The Chachamim say Yitame Nazir by Yitame Kohen Gadol. Let the Nazir become tamei and not the Kohen Gadol. So the Mishnah lays out the argument. Now the reasonings behind it. Amalem Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer said to them, meaning to the Chachamim, to the sages, Yitame Chayin, better that the Kohen become tamei. Sheina Mevi Carbon al Tumasei, because a Kohen who becomes impure does not have to bring a carbon for his becoming impure. By Yitame Nazir. And that to let him become tamei and not the Nazir become tamei, shumevi carbon al tumasai, who does bring a carbon for becoming tamei. That's what we're discussing. A Nazir becomes tamei, has to bring sacrifices as an atonement for becoming impure, and has to start over his Naziris again. And that Naziris only starts after brings these sacrifices. But the fact that the Nazir has to bring a sacrifice for his tumah and the Kohen Gadol doesn't, even though Kohen Gadol is not supposed to become tamei either, shows you that the Torah is stricter. The Torah takes more serious the impurity of a Nazir than the purity of a Kohen, even a Kohen Gadol. And therefore, Rabbi Eliezer argument is that therefore it's the Kohen Gadol, even the Kohen Gadol should become tamei instead of the Nazir. Amrulai, the Chachamim responded back to him, Yitame Nazir. Better the Nazir become tamei. Why? Shein kedushasai kedushas olam, because his kedusha, his sanctity as a Nazir, is not forever, is not eternal. V'yitame kayin, and let the kayin not become tamei. She kedushasai kedushas olam, that his sanctity is an eternal kedusha. Meaning a kayin always has his sanctity of a kayin, while the Nazir, first of all, took upon himself the Naziris. And even if he decides to become what's called a Nazir Olam, an eternal Nazir, right? He becomes an eternal Nazir. But he didn't start off that way, right? He had to make himself that. So therefore, that in that sense, he's different than the call it the eternal kahuna of a Kohen who's born that way. Secondly, the Kohen's kahuna gets passed down to his children, while a Nazir's Naziris, his status of Nazir does not get passed down to his children, even if he makes himself an eternal Nazir Olam, an eternal Nazir. And therefore, the Chacham's argument is that the Nazir's Tameh is not as serious, is not as strong as the sanctity of the sanctity of the Nazir is not as strong, and therefore not as severe as the sanctity of the Kohen, because again, the Kohen's his kedusha, his sanctity as a Kohen is forever. It starts from the day he's born, it gets passed down to his children. While by a Nazir, he's not born that way. Even if he makes himself an eternal Nazir, he doesn't get passed down to his children, and therefore his sanctity is less severe. And therefore, the Chachamim argued that better he become Tameh than the Kohen. And I don't see here anybody explicitly saying what the halacha is like, but the assumption would be that the halacha is like the Chachamim, who are the majority, which would mean that the Chachamim say better the Nazir become Tameh than the Kohen. Mm-hmm. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much.
He does where?
Yeah, the